I want to tell you about my pal Frank Miller. This is a name you're going to know because you'll have seen pieces in Rolling Stone, the New York Times. Frank Miller burst on the scene in comics in the 70s. He got tired of looking at comic books in which the superhero was taken for granted. He began by working on a comic book called Daredevil, which he reinvented and brought from the depths of no sales right to the peak of popularity. After his success with Daredevil, he created a book of his own called Ronin, which is a fully realized futuristic novel that goes all the way back in time to ancient Japan and all the way forward into an Orwellian 1984 kind of future. And he revolutionized what comic books looked like by utilizing the best paper and coloring processes. Then last year, he took one of the most deeply established icons, Batman, and he said, what would this man be like as he was nearing 60 and had not been a crime fighter for, say, 10, 15, 20 years? And he did The Dark Knight Returns, which is now a book published by Warner Books that is an astonishing document. It revolutionizes comic art, and it revolutionizes the way we think about comic books. This is Frank Miller. He's hot. You better take a look at him.
We've got to keep in mind that the main image people have of superheroes is Adam West playing Batman on the old TV show. That's what had to be overcome. But the idea itself is valuable. And it's also a hell of a lot of fun to write and draw. If you get it back to what the substance of the idea is, if you remember that Superman began as a common man against the forces of evil in the world, which were largely forces of authority back in the 30s. And you go back to when Batman was a vigilante who carried a gun on his hip back in the 30s again. You start seeing what a strong chord they can strike. Much of the stuff that Clint Eastwood, Charles Bronson, and others are doing now is kind of a right-wing version of those old comic books. And Dark Knight was really an attempt to take it back a lot in terms of the basic meat of the material, and at the same time bring it forward in terms of the world it lives in and the kind of fiction that you can do now. I really enjoyed the idea of making him as old as his legend is, and letting it be a cranky old legend, this ravenous old hero. I wanted to bring back that hearty sense of malice that he had back in his origins. Ronin, for me, was absolute proof that this can be a terrific field to work in, and that this is a great time to do comics. I had a publisher give me free rein creatively, terrific production values. I was able to work in collaboration with Lynn Varley, the painter, who was able to bring unheard of dimension to the color art. And I was able to charge into this form, into this project with this art form that's been in suspended animation for so damn long that most people don't think it has that it could possibly be any good. And I was able to play with it. I was able to twist things around, to bring in subjects and themes and graphic methods from sources far-flung. On top of that, I had been exposed to what was going on in Japan in the comic books and in France. And the work of Mobius in France and the work of Goseki Kojima in Japan, both of these collided on me at roughly the same time and came right out in Ronin. It was a playground and it was a nightmare, and it was a wonderful project to work on. Nothing could have taught me more. Nothing could have made me feel better about the form, or make me feel more committed about this as my art form than Ronin. In the 40s, when comic books started really taking off, there was an assembly line system set up in order to produce them more rapidly. And since comics have generally regarded themselves as junk, quality was not that much of a consideration. The outstanding comics have generally been done by one person who writes and draws. Will Eisner being a preeminent example. I believe it is one art. However, I don't believe that that's the only way it can be done. And my collaborations with Lynn Varley, with David Mazzucchelli, with Bill Sienkiewicz, have taught me that thrilling things happen when another artist is at work. When you're playing off somebody, when you get those surprises and when you get those problems you gotta solve. I think it's too early, for me anyway. Certainly for me to make any hard and fast statements about which way the art should be done better, because every project I do seems to be different. I'm also very new at this, and maybe you know, I could give you a better definition of the best way to do the form in about 30 years. So get back to me.